And I'm going to apologize in advance if you hear some background noise. I'm getting my carpets replaced. And they were supposed to be, I thought they were going to be done yesterday, but they're still going.
On the stairs there? Is that?
Yeah, all the upstairs.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a big project, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it actually is taking 2 days instead of 1. So
Did you change the color?
yeah, I did. Why can't I type? The keyboard's not working. All right, well, if anyone else is joining, I guess they can start along with us. Before we dive right in, maybe if all of you can put your microphones on mute if you're not there already, and then, since we're a small group, if you do have questions or you want to contribute, I'm happy for you, just take yourself off mute and we can have more of a conversation. Otherwise, we have the chat box down below that you can share your thoughts or some of the things that we go through today. And so we can make this a little bit more conversational, interactive, as much as you like. So I'm actually excited that we're a smaller group just to see how those dynamics are. So, and then I emailed you yesterday a handout or worksheet. So if you have that handy or you have it up on your screen or you've printed it off, have that handy because we're going to use that as throughout today. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. And get out of the way. And so today what I want to cover is just really go over some of the goals that I hope you come away with today. The first being really what this workshop is about is getting clear on what is next for you this fall and really try and focus on these next 3 months, taking small bites, small steps to achieve what you might want to achieve by the end of the year. Fall is kind of a nice time to reflect on the year. I mean, we've had such a crazy 18 months, and now to think about, the summer's over. For those of us who have kids, our kids are back in school. And wow, like we all of a sudden have a little bit of time on our hands. And so what are we going to use that time for? And so that's one of the things I hope you find today is get some clarity on that. The next thing I hope you take away is to really understand what might be stopping you or keeping you stuck or what's getting in the way of you doing what you want to do or achieving your goals. And then thirdly is to truly believe that you can have anything you want in this life. And it's about this, where we start with achieving these goals is believing that we can achieve these goals or we can have what it is we set out to have, whether it's a vacation or it's going on a yoga retreat, that you can have that if you truly believe that you can have it. But it's not just belief that makes these things happen. There's a lot of other things that go into it, but it's almost like we need to start with that belief that, yes, we can have this in our life. So, so I wanted to just set that tone for today, that these are some of the goals that I hope you achieve or walk away with today. Since I believe you all know me, I'm going to skip this slide. and this one. And what I'd like to do is sort of talk about how this workshop came about. I found myself in a position where my kids went to school, and all of a sudden, this routine that I'd established over the last 18 months no longer pertained to my life. My kids were gone for 8 hours of the day, and I sort of found myself sitting there twiddling my thumbs, thinking, okay, wow, I have all this time. What do I want to do with it? So, being the type A personality that I am, I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to dive headfirst into my work. I need to be productive. I have all these things that I should be getting done. And all of a sudden, I found myself in this state of stress. So, decided to really take a step back and say, no, like practice what you preach, be gentle with yourself, really take time to think about what it is you want to accomplish in these next 3 months, 4 months, and plan it out and create a path for you to get there. And so I thought, wow, and talking to friends, I wasn't alone in this. So that's really what spawned this workshop. And um, so um, so here we are, and I hope that you really find some clarity today and are able to walk away with some clear action steps to help you get started on your way. But before we get started, I want to just check in with you all to see how are you feeling? What's going on with you? If you want to share in the chat or you want to go off mute and share, how are you feeling today and about these next few months ahead?
I think a month ago, I had this more upbeat feeling and excitement about, oh gosh, we're through the worst of it. And, kind of excited about doing some things and making some plans for travel or whatever. And then kind of this Delta thing and that kind of that coming back on our shoulders, that kind of that weight. And, just for example, I'm a leader at a chapel here in our community, and we take turns being the leader, the board members. So August, we were all upbeat, we're singing, and we're just so glad to see each other. And then here September, and I had to be the leader, and I had to talk about the parameters of how we're going to sing, and I was just without trying to still be uplifting and encouraging, but reality and changes, and and it's an older community, so they're a lot more hyper vigilant about, which is good, about all the things we're supposed to do, but it also is very heavy on them because of their risk factors. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually, Beth, if you don't mind going on mute for a sec, because I think I may be having some feedback there. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like a lot of people felt the same way, that we've all gotten vaccinated, or whoever wanted to get vaccinated is now vaccinated, and it's giving us a little bit of sense of freedom and that we're through this. And then all of a sudden this Delta variant came in with a vengeance and started affecting kids. And, it was almost like, whoa, are we right back where we started? And so do we need to take all those same precautions we took before? And it was a little depressing, and it was hard to think about all that hard work we've done over the last 18 months or 16 months or wherever we were when it started, that, oh wow, are we gonna have to go through this all over again? And what was the point then of the vaccine? And so I hear what you're saying. And that being said, I feel like we are in a better place than we were when we started. We have so much more information and knowledge about this virus, and we know how to be safe. Whereas where we were 18 months ago, we knew nothing. And so we can, as we've done, adapted, and we've been able to live our lives fairly well. Those of us, who haven't been too affected by the virus, which I feel very fortunate. But that we have learned over the last 18 months how to live with it. And what are some of the things that we can still do within the parameters and within the rules? And yeah, we may still have rules for a little while. Like I just flew to Canada, most of you know that. And I had to get this COVID test that within 3 days, but it takes 3 days to get the results back. And so the stress, first of all, the cost of getting the test, and then the stress of not having it like the night before I'm supposed to fly out early morning the next day. And, but then it all worked out and I got on my flight and I got there and it was super easy getting through immigration. And I was there and I was so grateful that I was still able to do it. Yes, it was a little bit harder, but I still got there and I still had the experience that I wanted to have when I was there. So as we do look forward to the fall, we may still have to work within certain parameters, but there are still a lot of things that we can do. And so if you can look at it from that perspective and try to keep everybody upbeat and optimistic about, look, we still can gather, or we still can, maybe you can gather outdoors, to sing, or there may be shifts in what you might have to, the experience you have to create, Beth, for your church. But there are still a lot of things that you can do, is how I would perceive it, and try to still inspire your group. So saw a message that hope is not on hold. Yes, I love that. It isn't on hold. I think we do have a lot of hope, and we still do have a lot of things that we can be grateful for. So that might be actually a nice way to segue into, a little breathing exercise to help us anchor into this workshop. And maybe before we do, does anybody else have anything they want to share about how you're feeling these days, or what you're looking to for the fall, or even what you're looking to get out of today? Hey, Jess.
Hey, I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. What it kind of made me realize is sort of the parameters that we're working within now. It does kind of make you really take stock of what are your top priorities, and what are you willing to make that little extra effort that might be needed now in order to make that experience happen, right? And so you can it just gives you that little extra push to really assess what your priorities are.
Yeah, I love that. I love the how to look at that. Like, if it's that important to you, or you're that devoted to it, are you willing to make those little sacrifices or work a little bit harder to help make that happen? And so, yeah, it may actually narrow your list, and then you realize what is truly important to you. Yeah, I love that. Anybody else? Okay, so to get us anchored, I'd really like to take us through a little breathing exercise and help us anchor into what it is we want to get out of today, and help us open our minds a little bit. So if you want to sit up nice and tall, or if you're standing like me, and you want to close your eyes or just look out the window or what have you, and just take a few deep breaths in, and inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Just take a moment to put aside whatever thoughts you had before you arrived here. And relax your shoulders. And relax your eyelids. And maybe unclench your jaw. And you might start to think about what is next for you. What are some of the things that you wanted to do, but you put off because your kids have pretty much taken over your life. Or maybe there was something you were about to jump into right before the pandemic, but had to put that on hold. Maybe it was going on a vacation, or it was just trying something new, a different class or yoga class or a workout class. Or maybe you wanted to take up a new instrument, playing a musical instrument, or learn a new language. And some of these things don't have to be big goals. They can be completely unique to you. It could even just be cleaning out a room in your house that's been cluttered and weighing on you. So whatever it is, it should be something that just moves that needle a little bit closer to where you want to be. You have the ability to create the life that you want. So take a deep breath and just open your mind and start to visualize what that looks like. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So I wanted to put this slide up because to me, it symbolizes possibility. And anything is possible if you believe that it's possible for you. And yes, there are steps you need to take to help make that happen, but we start with belief. So there's a term I know some of you, I know Jess, you're familiar with the term manifestation. And recently I learned that it's all over TikTok. So in some ways it's being diminished in its meaning, but I really truly believe in it, and it's something I use very deeply with my clients. And I'll give you an example. Well, I'll talk first about maybe how I see manifestation. So manifestation is the process of turning a specific desired outcome into reality through things like focused visualization, through strong beliefs that it can happen, and also through empowered actions. And so those are the steps of the process we go through to manifest something from a desired thought to reality. And it can be considered a little bit woo-woo or a little bit out there. But I have seen it in action with my clients. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine who lived in the Bay Area, her mother was not well, and she lives in North Carolina. So she moved out there with her mother to take care of her and start to get her mother's health back on track. And she was out there for a few months, and she called me. She wanted to start working with me because she was finding herself really depressed. She was in her mother's home. She wasn't seeing many, it was the middle of the pandemic. She wasn't getting out. She wasn't seeing young people. And so we started to work on what is it that she wants. And when she thought about it, what she truly wanted was to be back in the Bay Area, to have a home. And what she really desired was to have a home and host her friends for dinner parties. That's what she could see. And that's what really made her happy, was thinking through that. So literally within 6 weeks, she was back in the Bay Area and out with her real estate agent. And within a couple of weeks, she actually bought a house in Oakland. And just a few weeks ago, I was over there for a dinner party. So this is, thought becoming reality. And she truly manifested this. And it's just incredible to think about what we are capable of making happen for ourselves. So what I wanted to start with today is really thinking through what it is that you want over these next 3 months. What do you envision for yourself? What do you believe is possible? And maybe I'll stop sharing my screen here for a second, just we can talk for a minute. But has anyone ever gone through that experience where you've been able to manifest something that you really wanted in your life? Or that there was a thought, maybe it was even years ago, that you set out this goal and you made it happen. You achieved that goal. Something that you maybe thought wasn't possible. For me, it was actually moving to the United States from Canada. I always wanted it. I always knew it as a kid. We would go on vacation to Florida, of all places. But the minute I crossed over that border, we would often drive. I had this whole different feeling in my body. Like it was a different energy. And I loved United States. I loved it. And when I was in my 20s, I thought I was finished college and I thought I want to move to the States. And my brother was here in California. And so it took me a few tries, but I eventually made it happen. And it just, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And from the minute I moved here, I felt at home. This was home for me. And I haven't really looked back. Anybody else had any type of experience where they really wanted something and they made it happen? If you want, you can just type it in the chat too, if you don't want to go off mute. Okay, so
Tanya, I would just share, well, I was going to, you know that I'm the older person here in this group, so I'm going to reflect on being married young.
Just wiser, Beth.
Just wiser, hopefully. But being married young and having a family, but I always wanted my master's degree. And I started when we lived in Michigan, then we moved to Kentucky and I started there again and we were almost done. And then we moved again. They wouldn't take any of those credits except 6 hours. So it was all over again. But in 9 years in 3 different states and 3 colleges, I got it. And I was really, nothing was going to stop me, but it was just, you know, it was just a long time.
Yeah,
But,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't waver in your belief. And I think that's, you know, that's the anchor for anything that we want.
Yeah. If you want it, you'll make it happen and you'll do it. Whatever, you know.
Amazing. I didn't realize it took you that long. I knew you did it after you had Jack and that, you know, 9 years, 3 states, 3 colleges. That's amazing. Wow.
When they didn't take those other credits out, oh, you'll be, and I remember the dean saying, well, just think of it. You'll be one of them, have had so much more education than other counselors when they get out. That doesn't, you know.
I just want to get it done.
Just get it done. Why don't you have a system where you reciprocate? Among states. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent about something that's still old in my heart.
Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. So what I want to do today is really take you through this step-by-step process to help you on your way. So the first step is really, you know, oftentimes we don't know what we want, or we know what we want, but we just don't know how to make it happen. So I want to take these next 2 minutes on your worksheet to really get clear on what you want. So the first step in doing that is, let's take 2 minutes and just do a brain dump. What are all the things that you wanted to accomplish in your life that you haven't yet? It can stem back to when you were a teenager, or when you graduated college, or soon after you got married, or whatever time in your life that you had all these dreams and ambitions. Just take these next 2 minutes and do a big brain dump and write down everything, anything and everything that comes to your mind. And also try to be specific. So An example might be, I want to get healthy. Well, maybe you can narrow that down a little bit. Like, how do you want to get healthy? Do you want to start exercising, or do you want to start changing your diet? You want to eat healthier, or you want to eat more whole foods versus processed foods? Whatever that is that you want to accomplish, be very specific with it. And then if you could, when you're done, just type in the chat that you're done, would be great. Thanks. We'll go another 30 seconds or so. So now I want you to take a look at your list, and I want you to put a star next to your top 3. So what are those 3 things that are jumping out at you? And then once you've done that, I want you to circle the one thing that when you look at it, you can feel your energy levels go up. You can't wait to get started on it. And when you're done, if you can let me know in the chat. And I apologize for all the banging. Lisa's done. Anyone else? Anyone else done? Oh, sorry, Emily. Can't hear anything. Oh, okay. Just the banging. Okay, that's good to know. How are we doing? Anybody want to share what their idea is, their goal? You want to put in the chat, or you want to go off mute and share? Having a hard time figuring out what's that one thing? Okay, well, we're gonna we can go through an exercise to help us feel into that, which I was going to do later, but maybe we can do it now and think about, because oftentimes it's actually a feeling that helps us make decisions. And so if you can narrow it down to two, I have an exercise for you. So does everybody have a space where you can stand up? And have your top two ideas in mind. And so this is an exercise where we try to visualize and feel into what is that one thing to help us make the decision. So if we stand in the middle and we take 2 steps to the right and 1 step back, and take that first idea or first goal that you want to achieve, or first experience that you want to create for yourself, and just close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and visualize yourself achieving that goal, having already been there. You're already there. Maybe it's December 31st and you are there and you have done the work. So take a moment and step into this future version of you that's 3 months from now. Just slip your fingers into her fingers and slip your toes into her toes. And feel your energy 3 months from now. And try to engage all your senses. So look around you. What do you see? What do you hear? Who are you with? How do you feel? And take 2 breaths to really feel into that energy. And in your mind's eye, as this future version of you that's 3 months from now, let's say it's December 31st, what does that future version want the you here and now to know about what it's like on the other side? When you're ready, open your eyes, and we're going to take 1 step forward and 2 steps back to where we started. And now we're going to think about the second idea, and we're going to take 2 steps the other direction and 1 step back. And again, you're going to close your eyes. And I want you to visualize again. It's December 31st. And you have done all the work to get to where you want to be. And you're going to step into this future version of you. You're going to step into her feet. You're going to slip your fingers into her fingers. And take a deep breath. And again, we're going to engage all of our senses. So look around you. What do you see? What are you hearing? Who are the people that you're with? What are you smelling? What are the scents around you? And how do all of those senses make you feel? Take 2 breaths just to breathe all of that in. And once again, as this future version of you, in your mind's eye, what does the future you want to let the current you, the here and now, know about what's on the other side? And when you're ready, take 1 step forward and 2 steps back to the middle. And you can take a seat. How was that for you? Did that help at all? Did it help you sort of visualize or have that sensation or feeling of which activity or goal or experience that you want to have first? Let me know in the chat if that helped at all.
Tanya, I'd just say, I have like kind of many, many things going on my sheet, but one was like more concrete and one or external and one was more internal. So like through that exercise, it just became clear. I mean, they're connected, but like I felt like I needed to do the internal
work first. Yeah.
So that's it. I could just kind of feel.
Yeah. And oftentimes we do need to do that internal work in order to be able to do the external things, because sometimes it's the internal work that's keeping us stuck, and not letting us move forward or take that next step forward. Yeah. And that's actually a good segue into the next step, which is, well, I guess there's one step before that, which is uncovering your motivation. So in order to actually help us achieve what we want to achieve, we want to understand why. What's your big why? What is it? Why is it that you want to do this? And knowing what's true for us and uncovering if the things that we want in our lives are really what we want. And that's a really important step in this process. So I want you to ask yourselves a few questions, and they're on the handout as well. But the first is this really and truly what I want? And another way to ask this is, how will it benefit my life if I have this? And why is that important to me? And another question you can ask is, when I think of having this, how do I feel? So similar to that exercise we just went through, how do you feel? We call this the big why. When we understand why, we can then anchor into that to help us motivate and get and do the work that we need to do. And then the next step is to let go of what's stopping you. So in your case, Jess, maybe it's working through some of the internal stuff so you can have the external stuff. Oftentimes we think about the things we want and the things that we've listed that we want, and we've wanted them for a long time. But something's been holding us back. Something's been keeping us stuck, and we continue to let that thing just be the barrier and our excuse. It's part of our story, part of maybe how we have identified in the past, have self-identified in the past. It's an old belief, perhaps, maybe even dating back to when you were a baby or something your mother said to you. So what has been stopping you from achieving what you want? And the first step is really creating that awareness and recognizing what has been stopping you or keeping you stuck. And when we understand what that is, only then can we start to let go of it. So have on your worksheet, jot down, what do you think is holding you back? This is a good example, Jess. When we were talking yesterday about choices, the choices we make. We can choose to hold on to this old story, or we can choose to create a new one. With every decision in life, we have a choice. So I think that conversation was so relevant for today. Especially if it goes deep, that you can create a new story. You just have to have the motivation and the awareness of that story to help you move through it and create a new story. Let me know when you're done. And if anyone wants to share, please feel free to unmute or type in the chat. Because I'm sure we can all learn from each other or understand or what you've gone through, what you're going through. A lot of us that go through a lot of the same things. And oftentimes it's, our own excuses that are stopping us from moving forward. It's the self-sabotaging that we just let happen. So if we can create the awareness around what are those excuses, then when we're about to use it, that excuse, we can kind of pause, take a breath, and really think about, do we want to use that excuse again, or are we done with those excuses? We're ready to make it happen. So the next step is to take empowered action. So you've made your wishes known of what you want to achieve. You've decided you understand your motivation. You've removed your barriers. And the next step is to take action. So on your worksheet, there's space there for you to write down 3 action steps that you want to take in this next week that are going to help you move the needle forward. Even if it's just 1%, that's okay. But list those action steps that are going to help you move forward. I like to work with my clients to take small steps. It doesn't have to be the big step. That can be extremely overwhelming. But if you break it down into small bite-sized pieces, then it's more palatable. I've heard a saying that goes, small hinges swing big doors. So those small, tiny steps, as you take them, the more you take them, they'll eventually get you to your goal. Let me know in the chat when you're done. And if you don't have 3, that's okay. Even what's the first step you want to take in this next week? What's that first step you're going to take to move things forward? Beth, I think you're really clear on what you want to do.
I was thinking about it since I read it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to share?
Um,
You don't have to.
I think I'll pass on that. Yeah. I
Okay.
will. Yeah. Thanks though.
Lisa, you're done too. Anything you want to share? Do you want to share maybe what your action steps are? You can just type in the chat if you want. You don't have to either, but. Okay. So as you complete your action steps this week, a good process to get into or a good routine to get into is maybe on Sundays or at the beginning of every week, you think about what are those 3 action steps you want to take that week. or even if it's one, doesn't have to be 3, but have it in your mind or written down so that when it does come time for you to, if you've blocked your calendar or whatever it is you've done to mark those times, to time block when it is you're going to work on this, achieving this goal, that you take the thought out of it. You already know what you're going to do. So if you just take a few minutes, sit down on a Sunday and think about, okay, what do I want to do this week that's going to move that needle forward closer to achieving my goal? And try and get into that routine of every beginning of the week or every Sunday, this is what I'm going to do. So the 5th step in this manifestation process is reinforcing your desires. So now that you've clearly identified what you want and why, and you're ready to let go of what's stopping you, and you've already made your task list or your to-do list, the next step is really to embody and rehearse in some ways what it is you want to achieve. So similar to that exercise of what we just went through, of visualizing what it is you want, helps you to believe that you can make it happen because you can see it. When we can mentally rehearse it, you can see it happen. Then you know you can make that happen. If you look at all these top athletes, we just came off the Olympics back in July or August, and those athletes, before they start their race or their competition, whatever they're competing in, they mentally rehearse that race. So Michael Phelps, and he wasn't competing, or Simone Biles, we'll take her as an example. She mentally rehearses her floor routine over and over and over again before she gets on that mat. It's a practice. It's training our brains to believe and know that we can achieve this. And we can see ourselves at the end with it. So one of the ways to reinforce what you want in your life is to visualize it. So even if part of your action step is once a week, visualize you at the end of this year, already having achieved what you want to achieve. And there are a few other ways that you can do that as well. If you like to journal, write it down. Journal every day, maybe one of the steps you took to move that needle forward, to get closer to what you want. Or maybe you write down some self-affirmations. The whole power of positive thinking. These positive self-affirmations help keep you motivated to get there. Creating vision boards is another way. So create a vision board of what it is if you're a visual person, so you can see that and put it somewhere where you can see it every single day, that this is what you want to achieve. And then lastly, the last thing I want to just say is also sort of patting yourself on the back for these small accomplishments. So yes, we often celebrate the big, at the end of everything, you've achieved it, that's when we celebrate. But we need to also celebrate the little wins along the way and look back at how much you've accomplished. So even if you do achieve that goal, celebrate it, or with that action step, sorry, for that day or that week, celebrate it, acknowledge it, acknowledge it. So I just want to recap here that manifestation is envisioning what you want for your life. It's believing that you can make those goals a reality. And it's taking action in alignment with those beliefs to achieve your desired outcome. So we've come to the end of our workshop here, and I just want to summarize 3 takeaways. You know what actions to take, but really what matters most is the follow through. So we need to hold ourselves accountable to make these actions happen. Now a couple of ways to do that is tell a friend, tell a spouse. If you want to work with me, I'm happy to be your accountability partner. Oftentimes we need external accountability to make it happen. Some of us are internally motivated and we do follow through. But it's the follow through that matters. We can write down our task list or our to-do list, but actually doing it and checking those boxes and the satisfaction of checking that off or crossing it off the list is very satisfying. The second is really to create space for this new way of being, this new way of thinking, knowing and believing that this is what you want and you can make it happen. And then thirdly is prioritizing self-care. So I heard a quote recently that said, we've always thought of self-care as something that we indulge in. It's not an indulgence. Self-care is a basic need for us women, especially because we are constantly nurturing, we're constantly taking care of everybody else around us. Self-care is like having a roof over your head or putting food on the table. It's a necessity. It's not a pleasurable indulgence. So be sure that you take care of yourself because you can't show up for others unless you show up for yourself. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I also want to offer you, I know I'm going to be working with a couple of you, but a 90-minute session, if anybody would like, one-on-one private session with me. And we can dive deeper into some of the things that we talked about, the insights that you gained today, and really help you create the boundaries and the time blocking and the follow through. And I'm here to provide a non-judgmental hand-holding support, and I'm happy to be your accountability partner. So I'm going to leave it there and open it up to any questions. Does anybody have any questions or want to share anything before we leave today?
Thank you, Tanya. It was really,
Thank you, Jess.
really helpful.
Thank
And
you.
writing it down and going through the steps that you guided was way more helpful than I would have even imagined. So like, I
Good.
feel like, when you have it kind of all swirling around up there and then to
Yeah.
break it down in a guided way was really helpful.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
The challenge of being concise about it, thinking it through to not have la 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 la, but really be pinning it down, as you might say. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all for being here and sharing your time with me and for showing up for yourselves. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll see you again next time. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye all.
Bye.